right, greetings everyone. Welcome to another episode of No Bullshipping with Hope White on this fantabulous Friday. Guess what today is? It's 4/22/22. And you're probably like, Hope, what does that mean? Doesn't mean anything specific, just that it is a beautiful, glorious day here in the supply chain world. You notice my background's a little bit different. I'm actually out of town trying to get a little relaxation, and reset here. So I'm in Tampa. So I'm streaming live here from Tampa today, but we're still going to have a very great show. I'm very excited to introduce our guest for today. Given the challenges that we faced over the course of the last 2 years in supply chain and logistics, we've come to understand that there is a growing and increasing need for commercial warehousing and internal storage spaces. So quite naturally, myself would have a guest on, such as Diana Campbell of DTS Spade. So I won't delay you any further, because this is going to be a very in-depth conversation about what warehousing is doing in supply chain and logistics. So let's bring up Miss Diana Campbell of DTS Spade out of Atlanta, Georgia.
Hello.
Hi, Diana. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for coming on here today. I know this is your first live podcast, so we're going to have fun.
Okay, be gentle with me now.
So without further ado, go ahead and introduce yourself to everyone and tell them who you are.
Absolutely. My name is Diana Campbell. I'm senior partner at DT Spade. We are a full service commercial real estate brokerage. I help people buy, sell, and lease commercial space. I have clients as small as a salon to as large as iconic Starbucks. I'm a tenant rep for Starbucks. I've had churches that I represent and school districts that I represent.
Oh, wow.
But the reason I am here, Hope, I'm so excited because my favorite vertical, my favorite transaction, where I like to spend most of my time learning and growing and doing work, is in the industrial real estate space. So I fashion myself a specialist in warehouses or or industrial real estate.
Awesome. Well, that's how you and I actually came to meet a couple years back. So we've come to know each other definitely in that space, and you've been so helpful for me and my team with resources. So I'm just really excited to dive down in this conversation and just learn more about DTS Spade and what you've seen, over the industry in the last couple of months. So what's your areas of specialty? I know you mentioned a few there, but do you have like a specialty there?
Yeah, industrial real estate, warehouses. I love to represent tenants who need to find space for distribution and fulfillment. I have probably most of my experience representing owner users of warehouses who need to sell their properties.
Okay.
And there are sort of 4 different ways to think about commercial transaction. You're either making a purchase, so there's a representing the buyer or the seller, or you're leasing, you're representing the tenant or the landlord. I've done all of those things with warehouses.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm going to need you here shortly, so we're going to talk offline.
Absolutely.
So in the last 12 months, in the commercial warehousing space, what changes have you seen in the last 12 months? And not talking about the big bad issue there that's been out there for the last 2 years, but just being more specific to what's going on in warehousing.
So I want to actually talk about the last 6 or 7 years.
Oh, wow.
and that is a steady increase in the need for industrial space, for those big boxes you see on the side of the highway.
Mm-hmm.
This industry has not slowed down for many, many years, even when prior to the pandemic, one thought, okay, we've been in sort of an uptick for a long time now. It's probably time to recede a little bit. It has not happened. The recession only accelerated things. So overall, what you see is an increase year over year of inventory on the market that is not only being supplied by those developers of industrial space, but is being absorbed by tenants like you, folks that need to use those space to do their warehousing operations or their logistics operations.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So overall, what I would say is just an increase in demand, a decrease in vacancies. Vacancies are as low as they have ever been, historically low. Some markets see 3% vacancies.
Wow.
Um, and you know what happens when something's vacant? Guess what happens? People
What?
start building. Right? You
Absolutely.
have to level
Absolutely.
out that supply and demand. So as the vacancies are compressed, the developers are building like crazy to match the demand for those products. What else happens when vacancies go low? To the rents, they go high.
Yeah, so like in my market in Savannah, speaking of those decreases and that
Mhm.
vacancy rate there, I think in Savannah we're like at a -2%. I mean, we may be even less than that because I'm in dredge and container services,
Mhm.
and we have definitely boosted that demand for
Yeah.
internal warehousing space. There are more units on the water, more orders coming in, and we're just
Mhm.
trying to catch up from
Mhm.
the last 2 years. So it's just interesting to see all of the new developments that are coming into play, more specifically, the mega spaces
Yeah.
that are coming into play. I'm noticing that the warehouses are getting larger and larger
Yeah.
and larger
Mhm.
just over the last year or so
Yeah.
compared to what we previously seen in the last 2 or 3 years for warehouse development.
Yeah. So I know you have a very broad audience, Hope.
Mhm.
So what I'm speaking to is really the Atlanta market, but it's indicative of every major market out there. We're
Yeah,
about the third largest in terms of inventory of warehouse space in the
yeah,
country.
yeah,
And then, of course, with the Port of Savannah coming, we're just growing like crazy here. But this conversation is no different for LA, New Jersey, Lehigh
right,
Valley, Pennsylvania, you name
right,
it. So
right.
Hope, there are about 43 million square feet of warehouse spaces that are going to be coming online in Georgia, if not just the Atlanta metro
Wow.
area, over the next year. And so that gives you a scope.
Yeah.
It's just staggering.
Absolutely. I
What's
mean,
happening?
43 million square feet.
Yeah.
Goodness. Does Georgia have enough space for that? Well,
Exactly.
I know they do. I just don't want to tell everyone where it is. Well, I want to tell some of our guests that have joined us hello and good morning. So we have the lovely Sarah Barnes Humphrey joining us this morning. Good morning,
Good
Sarah, joining
morning,
us
Sarah.
from Vancouver. And then we also have Anitra. Hi, Anitra, with Supreme
Oh,
Transportation Group out of Atlanta. She's a
yeah.
friend of both of us. So thank you all this morning for joining us when we're talking about commercial warehousing space. So, Diana, what, if any, challenges do you face now in your space? And then how do you overcome them?
Yeah. So here's the deal. I'm a commercial real estate agent, right? I help people make their transactions. If they can't transact, I can't earn money, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I am acutely aware of challenges, right? And those are primarily, to be honest, preparation to compete in this
yeah.
environment.
Okay.
So I mentioned really low vacancy rates. That means this is a landlord's market. And a
Yeah,
landlord wants the best deal that's on the table. He wants the fastest deal that's on the table. He wants the easiest deal that's on the table. So
yeah,
as a consumer of space, your onus in and the onus of your agent is to get you ready to compete. Get those
yeah,
financial documents in order. Make sure your accountant has your profit and loss statements and your balance sheets and all of that together. Have the cash available to be seen. And don't be shy about showing what your wherewithal is. People get caught up in, oh, I don't want to, why
yeah.
do they want to know this or that? Show it. Just
Show it.
blot
Let it
out,
all hang out.
get over yourself, blot out that account number and put your money on the table so you can compete.
Absolutely.
That is, and that's kind of how I focus with my clients. Let's get strategic about positioning you in the market as someone who a landlord wants to do business with.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just as simple as that. If you can present a nice, well organized package with all your information up front, tell them who you are, what you do, you can get in the door, or at least you can be online to wait for that next space that's available.
Absolutely. I want to pivot there just a little bit. I know this is going to be a little bit off what we discussed,
Mhm.
but you brought up something there that has been happening in this Savannah market that has been a bit of a concern for me, myself, as a small business owner trying to, essentially get my own warehousing space.
Mhm.
And that is the landlords are basically auctioning
Mm.
lease agreements up because of the shortage of space.
Mhm.
So when it comes time for lease renewals,
Mhm.
they're increasing 20, 30, 40%. And then if you don't agree, because you don't know where your sales are going to be just yet, then they're essentially putting up for the highest bidder. Are you seeing that in other markets, or is that just centered around the ports area?
So I can't say I've necessarily seen the auction that you referred to.
Mhm.
However, what I am seeing, and this is another pinch point, is if you are up for renewal,
Yeah.
you are vulnerable,
Oh,
especially
wow.
if you're vulnerable because yes, your rates are going to go up. I represent
Yeah.
landlords as well,
Yeah.
and yeah, the people who are coming up, I'm letting them know now. Get ready.
Get ready.
We can't stay where we've been. We just can't. The landlord won't let. I'd love for you to stay where you are. The landlord won't let me. I have to do the best for him. So
Wow.
yeah, if you're coming up for renewal,
Okay.
even if it's say 2 years in advance,
Yeah.
get ready. And
Get
get
ready.
ready means either you're going to be paying more,
Okay.
or you need to prepare for where you're going to transition and how
Transition.
you're going to transition,
Absolutely.
or you need to start working on the what you're charging so that
Uh-huh.
these new rates are going to be more affordable. But
Yes. Hmm.
um, the other thing I would say is if you're in a brand spanking new space,
Hmm.
you're probably not going to see those dramatic increases. If
Okay.
you're in an older space,
Hmm.
especially with kind of like your mom and pop owner,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
um, those are the places where maybe they're going to be redeveloped,
Okay.
or right, and if there's a new owner that's coming in, they're going to just reposition that whole property and you might see something really dramatic. You
Okay.
also, and I hate to be long-winded, if it's okay, I want to make one more point
No,
about
you're fine. Go ahead. This we want to get it all down and tell us the tea, honey. We want the tea.
if you are leasing a space and your landlord has been decent enough to warn you as to
Okay.
what's to come, then you're both in sort of an interesting position because your landlord won't be mad at you if you leave, because the sooner
Okay.
you leave, the faster he can get a higher paying tenant. But that means you have some good transition time.
Right.
And sometimes that's just the problem. You want to make a transition, but you have to time it just right so you're not paying two rents, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. But
Yeah.
if you know you're getting ready to be edged out, prepare yourself. Get yourself a
Absolutely.
good agent. Get on that market, get in line so that you can make as seamless a transition as possible.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I want to add the audience into this conversation here because I know we do have a few that's playing in the warehousing space in the comment section. So definitely, if you have any questions for Diana, or you just have a statement about what's going on in commercial warehousing space right now with supply chain, definitely add it to the comment section. Also, seeing two new people come in, I want to speak to them this morning. So good morning to Edwin out of Colombia. Oh, Edwin, I need to come visit you. You in Bogota. And then we have Jens. Good morning, Jens. Good morning from Hamburg, Germany, that is. All
Wow.
right, Jen, thank you so much for joining us. All right, so Diana, I want to get to the next question here because this one is really what I'm more interested in this whole conversation. So tell me more about commercial warehousing space in the southeast region of the United States, and what size space do you recommend if I were a small business getting started? I know you can't give warehousing advice, but just as a commercial realtor, a broker
Mhm.
there, what have you seen the size need be for,
Yeah.
smaller to mid-sized businesses?
Yeah. So um, size and location are going to be highly contingent upon exactly what you do, of course,
Okay.
right? And some things to think about is if you go too small and you're growing, then you have to go through the pains of moving again or getting stuck in your space. If
Yes.
you go too big
Uh-huh.
and you don't have those accounts lined up,
Uh-huh.
you're stuck in another place.
Say it, Diana.
So I don't know that there's a perfect answer.
Okay.
I just know that you have the advice I always give is to know your numbers for your business.
Okay.
You when you get a space, no matter how big or small, maybe you take a chance and get that really large space, or maybe you just go through those pains and make your transition. But the point is, you should know exactly how you're going to use every square foot of that business, every square
Absolutely.
foot of that warehouse.
Mm-hmm.
I would not recommend necessarily going in and saying, "Oh, this is a cool space. It's pretty big. I can do a little this, I can do a little that. Maybe I'll do this, maybe I'll do that." That
Yeah.
can work, but you had better have a core business that you can rely on that pays the rent, and then you can work around the other space. So every time you put your foot down, I have big feet. My foot's about a foot long, right? So when I step in a warehouse, I know what 1 foot by 1 foot looks like. I can use my feet
Absolutely.
and do one of these, and I can see. You got to know that when you put that pallet down, what, pallets are like 440 by 48 or something like
48
that.
by 40. Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
let's say 16 square feet, right? So you
Yeah.
put that 16 square foot pallet down, you
Mm-hmm.
got to know what that's gonna generate for you.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the big thing. Like, know your numbers, know that core business, and use that to decide on what you're going to do with size. In
Yeah.
terms of where, again, it depends on your core business. So if you know trucks are coming in and out, you're going to not devalue being close to those highways.
Right.
Um, you know that if you know how much turnaround those forklifts are going to have to be, know how what's called the clear span, right? And so
Right.
how where those beams, right? So just know you have to be very clear on your operations
Mm-hmm.
so that you can choose the right space. Maybe you went too small, maybe you went too big,
Yeah.
but the space has to really accommodate exactly what you do in it.
Yeah, this is definitely one of those things that, I also educate and train outside of my core business. And this is one of the things I speak of when my students or mentees come to me wanting to get into warehousing, understanding and knowing your business before you actually acquire the space. You
Mhm.
need to know what the use of the space is going to be before you acquire the space. So
Yeah.
that's definitely great to hear that coming from you,
Mhm.
Diana. You're not even in the warehousing space
Yeah.
perspective from that regards, a service provider, but you definitely, spoke to those
Yeah.
same things there. Yeah.
And hope, you know what else comes up, and the reason why I'm sort of attuned to it
Yeah.
is if you have a client and you say, okay, well, let's go see this space, and you walk in, they're like, nah, that's not gonna work. I'm like, well, you could have told me from the first
Look, let's
right?
definitely touch on that one. Speak
Ex-
on that
yeah,
because,
I mean, so
yeah,
you go in, and as a business owner, you know what it is you need.
yes, right,
As your broker, I am accustomed to asking a lot of questions about what you need, but
right.
sometimes we don't get to the nitty gritty until we actually walk in a
Yeah.
space.
Yeah.
So if you know you're a little persnickety about, okay, this needs to look nice, all
Yes.
right, let me know. I'm not going to show you a Class C
Yes.
property. If
Yes.
you know, like I had a client who does screen printing, right?
Yeah.
And what I appreciate is he said, you know what, my machine is 18 by 18.
Yeah.
It needs to be next to this other machine that I go back and forth, and then that needs to be next to a garage door because we need a lot of ventilation and we like to open up the doors when we're working.
Yeah.
That was crystal clear. So now I
Absolutely.
say, oh, I know what you're talking about. I know what kind of space you need. I can
Yes.
eliminate it. So I want to just go back to, how do you deal with a competitive market?
Yeah.
Communicate what it is you need exactly, so that,
Absolutely.
and it's all about efficiency. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so
Absolutely.
sometimes you get good at that as you're looking at space, and I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
But
we got some comments, girl. They
oh,
loving your
okay,
conversation. Let's jump in there. So we got
all right.
Edward that joined us from Peru. Good morning, Edward. But I want to touch on these two comments that came in. So we got something from Jen who says storage of chemical raw materials in Europe, 40% up individually on existing contracts, depending on spot. If you want a new space, could be a challenge. So I'm thinking she's talking about storage of hazmat chemicals, which I teach and educate about that. That's definitely a niche market of getting into that. So that's a great
Mhm.
comment there, Jen. And then
Yeah.
we have, don't get me wrong, is it Rohit? Roh Katana. I know that part.
Mhm.
Uh, he has a question for you. He says, how important is a commercial warehouse um, for people who are transitioning from traditional production to JIT? JIT is to reduce the inventory holding costs. In the case of this transition, what should the company change in its warehousing strategy?
Hope, I'm gonna leave that one for you.
No, that's going to be up to you. So if I'm going from a transitional space
Yeah.
to a
What does that mean? A
larger,
transitional space?
yeah,
A traditional. Mhm.
yeah, larger fulfillment space, I mean, what should I be
Okay.
looking at? And I think you kind of touched on that, understanding your space needs
Yeah.
there, your ceiling heights, your dock doors,
Yeah. Yeah.
your locations, things of that nature.
And
Yeah.
I would throw one more in there, and that is how many trucks are coming and needing to wait at your facility. The
Yes.
older facilities don't have space for those trucks to kind of hang
Yeah.
out and wait their
Yeah.
turn.
Yeah.
So besides the large ceiling height, the tall
Yeah.
ceiling heights that are
Yeah.
coming into play now, they're also these kind of holding stations, spots,
Yeah.
areas where trucks can be
Yeah.
at pieces efficiency. But if I understanding the nuance of your question, but I think we've covered some of the things that you should think about. And also, here's one, and that is, do you need client facing space? How
Yeah.
much office do you need? A
Yeah.
lot of places have a standard of, I don't know, 15 to 20% might be
Yeah.
office. You
Yeah.
might decide, you know what, I don't need any office.
I
I
don't
want
need
all
any
work.
office space, which is really
Exactly.
big. Yeah, I
Exactly.
actually recommend having most of your office space or your floor space and just having like a command station to kind of
Right.
eliminate all that office space because you really don't need it once you're, at a certain size.
Yeah,
So
and it depends on what you do. It depends on what you do and how you cultivate clients as well. And then
absolutely.
I would also throw in, do you want space that's facing where the trucks are loading in?
Yeah,
Or can your office space be in the back? So where is
absolutely.
that office space gives you visibility as to what's going on in your warehouse? I hope those are some things that are good to think
Oh,
about.
I think those are phenomenal. I think those are phenomenal. So I want to ask you if I'm wanting to keep up with what's going on in the warehousing market and not just talking about the Southeast, but just as a whole,
Yeah.
what are some of the resources that are out there available to me as a small business owner or an investor wanting to get into the commercial warehousing spaces? What
Yeah.
are some resources available to me to help me kind of keep up with what's going on?
So I mean, a lot of the really large commercial real estate firms will have outlooks for industries.
Okay.
JLL, Cushman Wakefield, um, CBRE, they'll have reports, and you can go online and download their reports, and I'm pretty sure they're free.
Okay.
But I don't want to take I don't want to direct too much attention to those shops. I want you to be thinking about me.
Well, I mean, if you're
But
definitely a resource, this is a
let
shameless
me
plug here.
no, absolutely. But I want to be fair about it and say you can get outreach. Look up industrial market outreach. Google it. You'll find it, right?
Okay.
But I'll tell you, your best friend, if you want to think about being in the warehouse industry, you need
Okay.
to find a commercial broker who is your buddy.
Okay.
The beauty of working with a commercial broker is that real estate is local. You can learn
Okay.
about everything you want in the world, but
Yeah.
you need to get down to the area where you want to do business, where you're going to make that first acquisition. And the
Yeah.
best source of information is going to be a local broker who's focusing on those assets, hands down. Those
Absolutely.
reports are great, but they're coming out periodically. And so what a broker will do for you is give you more in-depth information about what's
Yeah.
going on in a specific area real time. That's
Absolutely.
one. And then the thing I always like to mention is that, especially in a tight market, and certainly here in Atlanta, 85% of transactions are brokered with a broker on each side of the equation.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you go to acquire space, 85% of the time, you're paying for two brokers,
Oh
whether you
wow.
like it or not.
Yeah.
It's baked into those fees that are publicized.
Yeah.
Either one side takes all of it or they split it 50-50. Okay.
Yeah.
Or something along there, right?
Okay.
So it is never, if you're acquiring a space, whether you're
Mhm.
buying or leasing, it is never a good idea to go it alone.
Okay.
A local broker will give you more information, will help
Okay.
you think about things you haven't thought about, will get to it faster. They'll have relationships in the market. So for
Okay.
global information, Google it. For local
Okay.
information, find a broker. If you're in
All
Atlanta, you can find me.
right. Okay.
How about
Well,
that?
we had Alex come in from Canada. So good morning, Alex. Thank you so much for joining us today. Diana, this has been such a wonderful conversation. We're coming up on the last 5 minutes here. And I definitely, you told me here the other day you have a podcast.
I
So do you mind
do.
sharing with us about your podcast and where we can find it?
Yeah. So the podcast is called Careers with a S in Transportation. And
Okay.
it was inspired by me being inspired by folks like you who are
Oh,
in this
wow.
body of work. It
Okay.
is a way that I have found invaluable for just learning more about my clients, what they do. But what I've
Okay.
also discovered is there's a whole world around you all.
Yes.
People like me who I'm not in the warehousing business, but I help people who are find their space, right?
Right.
I have an interview with someone who's a lawyer, right?
Mhm.
But they're a lawyer for the
Got it.
railroads. I
Okay.
have someone who's a caterer, but she caters for private aviation. And
Mhm.
so all of my audience members, and you're going to be one soon, hope,
Okay. Come
on
on with it.
I'm sorry, all of my interviews, and you'll be
Mhm.
one soon, are people who engage logistics and transportation.
Yeah.
And so it's an exploration of their careers and really showcasing how there's a place in this industry for
Yes.
everyone. It's
Yes.
broad and vast and robust, and everyone can jump in where they fit in. And it's sort of celebrating that and talking to those professionals.
So when does it air? What's your days, times that it typically airs?
Yeah, so I try to get in there on Thursdays.
Okay.
I finished with season one, and so I finished all of my interviews, and now I'm posting them on
Okay.
Thursday. So you can look for the next set of interviews on Thursday. But if you go to Careers in Transportation, there are 11 interviews that have been posted already, and you could always go back and listen to them. I would appreciate it if
Awesome.
you did.
Awesome. 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 Okay, Diana. Now tell me, how can I find you for DTS Spade?
So dtspade.com,
Mhm.
right? For sure. You can find me there. My email is
DT
diana.campbell@dtspade.com.
Spade. I've been saying
And
DTS for too long.
it's okay.
So
It's fine.
sorry.
It's fine. Totally fine. Um, and then my podcast, Careers in Transportation, when you go to that website, careersintransportation.com, there is a place where you can give me your contact information. I also have what's called a free roadmap to
Okay.
finding your warehouse space. And you can find that
Awesome.
on careersintransportation.com. And it's
Okay.
basically a set of probes and questions to help you think through the process of getting your first warehouse space or selling it or leasing it, whatever you want to do. But
Awesome.
all that can all be found at careersintransportation.com.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah,
Diana, this has been an informative and fun conversation. I'm so glad that we got together and you were able to come on today. I just want to thank you for coming on and sharing your insight. And we're looking forward to doing more partnerships with
ab-
you in the future.
absolutely. Thank you so much, Hope. I really do appreciate it. And you're a bundle of energy and
You're
perfect
welcome.
for a Friday morning. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. You're welcome. Bye
And
bye.
thank you, guests. It's awesome to see an international guest and my client, Anitra. Awesome to have everyone here.
Awesome. You're welcome. Talk to you soon.
Take care.
All right. Bye bye. So, did you guys learn something? I definitely did. I've been in the warehousing space now, off and on now, about 4 years. So, I met Diana about 2 years ago, and she's just been a wealth of information and knowledge and resource, as she stated. Definitely check out our website, Careers in Transportation. I hope that you have enjoyed this episode of No Bullshipping with Hope White. I hope to see you next month, every fourth Friday at 10 a.m. right here live. So take care and have a wonderful day. Bye bye.